Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Factorio Friday Facts, number 431, Gleba and Captivity. I'm the Exterminator, and thank you for joining me today. And we have a pretty interesting one here. Now, one thing that's actually pretty funny is some of this, the later half of this Friday Facts, is actually new to me, even though I've been playing. The changes mentioned later on in the Friday Facts are actually things that have not been put into like our playtesting version as of yet, and we just found out about them with the Friday Facts. So some of this I am actually like legitimately finding out about it right now, as you all are. But some of this, like this first part, has been a change for a little while now. But let's just get right into it. So this is from V, and I'm going to read most of this just straight up because it is pretty important to just get the idea of what's going on, the reasoning here, because, Gleba is a pretty hot topic in general and, pretty heavily debated on like its issues or not. So we'll get into it. In the last few months, we have been thinking about how to improve Gleba. There's always been this fundamental problem with a biological-oriented planet. Other things you produce in the game tend not to be organic, so it doesn't quite fit as easily as a planet based on making more ore or more iron or more electric circuits. And there's 2 points made here. It's difficult to integrate the biological production chains into the rest of the traditional factory as it's mostly metals normally. Finding useful things to unlock is difficult, especially compared to the metal and electronics based producers like foundries and EM plants. And during the LAN party we had about a month ago, these problems were only confirmed, plus we realized many more issues in other areas, and seeing people interact with Gleba put a lot more urgency on finding solutions. So, this is really good. I'm really glad to hear that, the beta testing and LAN party was actually really successful. I mean, it was successful in many ways, but I'm glad it was successful in the aspect that, it helped them kind of find out issues that maybe they would not have realized had they only just kept playing, with their own team rather than, kind of branching out to have other people play test it. And there's one change in particular which is significant and outlines our approach fairly well. So, bacteria cultivation. One of the key issues on Gleba previously was that you'd be building 2 factories, one for agriculture, which would eventually output the science pack, and then the usual, iron copper circuit chain. And, this is how it was originally being when like the LAN party happened and when we started, like us beta testers started playing it. I don't know if this was like always the way, but this is basically what we started with. And you can see, I mean, it's very segmented, right? None of these cross over. It is completely separate. You're taking like a little tidbit from normal novice production chain, and then you're also doing this completely different thing, which are totally unrelated, but at the same time you still need both, because you need these to like make some buildings. You need this to eventually like be able to do some stuff with rockets, like, so you need it, but they're not really interconnected previously. This was especially problematic because the agriculture factory didn't contribute anyway until you'd have delivered science packs to your labs, and as we learned, it's preferable to attempt to have each step you make feel rewarding and immediately useful. Let me go down here to a very long time ago. We had wanted, for a very long time, we had wanted to add a way to create iron and copper or via agriculture, but we weren't quite sure how. Getting factory grade amounts of minerals from plants just felt unbelievable. And these are stromatolites waiting to be mined. I probably said those wrong, but the idea we've implemented is that some basic bacteria can be found in the swamps where agriculture plants grow. So these things are rock-like objects which have been formed over many years, acting as accumulated bacteria and ore for you to quickly obtain at start. So they're kind of like the big rocks and stuff in Novice, where you get like coal and rock. It's kind of equivalent to that, but for iron and copper. And then the Yomiko and jelly nut can be processed with a small chance to obtain copper iron bacteria respectfully, reinforcing the feeling that there really isn't much in it. Soon enough, you unlock the biochamber, and as you are the ingenious engineer, you replicate and grow the bacteria into truly industrial amounts. So yeah, so you can see a part of the process here. Basically, you can, like, I mean, this isn't necessarily showing the, well, this is maybe the iron and copper, but the recipe display is turned off. But yeah, basically you can start somewhat mass producing iron and copper. It's still like, I would say definitely on a lower scale than what you would get from novice from just mining, but it can be done. Right, so you basically just once you get your biochamber, you can just start basically growing iron copper, which is kind of weird to be honest. And but that's okay. I'm really not that worried about that. Once you get past that, it does work. It still, to me, feels like a little separated, just because you are trying to build these like two different factories. Which, I mean, yes, you do get the iron and copper from some of the agriculture Gleba stuff, but you also are still like, after that point, once you actually get the iron and copper, you're still doing like two completely separate tracks, which is not as bad. Like, I don't want this to sound worse than it is. It's really not that bad in terms of that aspect. I still think it's like a little bit weird, but that's just my opinion. And there's more changes to come anyway. So yeah, I mean, this is iron and copper if I had read the caption, but you know me, I can't read. So this is iron, this is copper. It would make sense, I would say. And then this results in the agriculture chain being immediately useful for creating iron and copper, or which you can use for building more of the Gleba factory. And once you've got enough of that, you can just switch it to full on agricultural science production. As a result, the steps you're taking are much more useful and less tedious. Beautiful little details that bacteria spoils directly into ore, so it's a place where spoiling is helping you for once. Now, this part is really nice, that the bacteria item does spoil directly into ore, so you're actually getting something useful instead of just trash or something dangerous. But we will go on to the reward. Now, this is kind of where things start changing from what I've played with and the beta testers have played with. This part of the captivity is something we've had, and it's an interesting aspect for sure. Like, definitely a very different feeling than what we've done so far, because there's never really been a way to like capture and like capture biters. It's always been basically destroy. I mean, there were the alien artifacts way back when, but that was a result from destroying them. So this is an interesting approach. It's nice when an activity is fun, but it's much better when it's also meaningful and leads somewhere. Obtaining powerful factory improvements is how we like to be motivated in Factorio. There's a handful of improvements to be unlocked by Agricultural Science Pack, like the stack inserter, spider tunnel with rocket, turret, or more efficient recipes for space platforms, but there is one specific new technology, biter captivity. So Bioflux, which is this stuff, by the way, is a combination of processed Yamako and jelly nut. It's crafted on Gleba and it can be used to capture biter spawners on Novice. A capture robot loaded with doses of Bioflux solution and is shot from a rocket launcher, as you can see. The capture robot latches onto a spawner, and soon enough the spawner is rendered harmless and docile. Now, this is reduced the time, but basically, yeah, you shoot this thing out of a rocket launcher at a spawner, and then it does this. It does require, like, one thing I like about this is it requires a little bit of finesse. Like, you have to kill all the biters around it, obviously, so you don't die doing this, but you also have to make sure to not kill the spawner. So I don't know, maybe some would consider it tedious. I consider it like kind of a way to introduce some finesse in the game and be kind of careful about your actions. It's not like super annoying by any means. I kind of like that aspect, that you have to not just mow through them all the time, where there is actually a time now where you have to be a little more careful with how you handle them, because otherwise you're just going to destroy all the spawners and have to do it all over again. Once captured, the spawner no longer hatches biters, and biter eggs can be collected with inserters for further processing or disposal. So Bioflux comes in, right? You have to feed them Bioflux. It basically just keeps them, I guess, like, under control. Keeps them like inundated or something. As long as you keep feeding it Bioflux and frequent intervals, the spawner will remain that way. Otherwise, it's going rogue and returns back to its natural form, spawning hostile biters again. Yeah, so this kind of just keeps it, it's like a sedative of sorts or something, which is kind of messed up, but I think we're already past that point in the game. I'm pretty sure we're now confirmed as the bad guys, if it weren't already. Biter eggs can be immediately used for improvements to agriculture crafting productivity module 3, or because we felt like Gleba unlocks are motivating us enough, a new laboratory. And this is actually pretty insane, folks. And this is the new part. I've not played with this. This has not been added to our beta version yet, and we literally all just found out about it just like you did today, because it was previously something else, which I'll also get into. But what the decision they've come to is a new lab. So combined with some other items, the egg can be grown and hatched into a mutated laboratory. As you will be able to read down below, the work on the graphics has only just started, but here you can see a work in progress version of it from Arendelle in Jersey, which honestly is not bad. Like, I would play with this. It already looks 10 times better than assemblers or refineries or anything like that. So, yeah, I know I keep mentioning that. But anyway, I mean, I think obviously they're not going to call this done because, they want to get it kind of perfect, which is fine. I think this still looks great personally. But work in progress graphics, as you can see, Biolab can be used only on novice as the organism, if I could talk, inside would die on other planets, but in turn it only consumes half the amount of science packs for any given research. This is huge. I'm going to come back to this in a second. It can process all science packs just like the normal lab. It also has 4 slots for modules. This means it's a powerful unlock, and obtaining it early on should feel quite rewarding. Whether we finally broke the imbalance of Volcanus and Fulgora being clearly superior to Gleba, we will see, but at least the difference is much, much less stark now. So they go into what it was before, but before we get to that, I want to talk about this because this is really interesting and really powerful. So this is essentially kind of how the big miners work from Volcanus with mining, where they have like a reduced depletion rate, but this is basically for science packs. So it only consumes half of the amount of science. So basically for every science pack you put in, you get, well, basically 2 science ticks or 2 science cycles out, right? Because each like tick or cycle, whatever you want to call it, of science, of tech progress is only going to consume half the pack, so you can actually get 2 of those cycles out of 1 pack. And this is insanely powerful on its own. This is actually better than productivity, than 50% productivity, right? If it had a built-in, so like the Foundry and the E-implant have built-in 50% productivity, which is still great, don't get me wrong. But that's only like 1.5, right? If you put one in, 50% prod is 1.5. But this is actually doubles it, basically. Because if you put in 1 and it only consumes half of 1, then it actually, basically you get 2, right? For every like 1 you put in. So with the way this works. And then it stacks with productivity as well. So not only does it have 4 module slots where you can put 4 prod modules, don't forget, we also have research productivity, and it's an infinite tech too, where you can, there's a tech where you can research, they've already shown this, so I'm not spoiling anything, they've shown this quite a while ago in Friday Facts, but where you can research, like, your labs just have an inherent productivity bonus with each level of this tech you do, so then this is going to stack again on top of this basically halved consumption. So this is crazy powerful, and the other thing too is this trickles down throughout the entire production chain, right? Like, if you have a science that costs 100 of every pack, you only need to put in 50, right? Because it's only consuming half per tick required. So for 100, you only need to put in 50, and that means that, like, I mean, basically it just trickles down throughout your entire production chain, right? Because to do that, you would only use half as much as you previously would have had to do before you had these labs, or you can do double the amount at the same cost as what you're currently doing. So this is really powerful. Now there are maybe some slight potential issues. So one of them being that this cannot be used on space platforms, which I understand, and like I totally get them needing to put limitations on it. However, I'm thinking how to say this without like spoiling anything, but I think it should be fine. So like there's been some tests being done with within those beta testers, and some people found that, like, UPS wise it's kind of better to just like production wise it's better to actually potentially be doing your science on platforms, but you can't do that with this. So you could still do it with normal labs. This doesn't like get rid of the normal lab, but if you want to use these, that kind of takes that away. So it could be like a UPS issue, performance issue, if you're forced to bring all of your packs to novice to do research. But again, I understand they need limitations because this is an incredibly powerful building. So there's going to be trade-offs, although honestly there's not really trade-offs with foundries or the implants. So yeah, we'll see. It may not be that big of an issue. It's just something that was brought up. But let's go into what it previously was, because I have some thoughts here as well. And this is something that we have played with, because we've had this for about a week, this thing coming down here. You may notice that the biolab above looks obviously similar like the captive biter spawner. Until very recently, that's very much what it was. So so originally from when we started beta testing, none of this, not even this captive, not even what they're going to go into here, existed for Gleba. Like, you just didn't really get any rewards, like, building wise from it that was actually useful, and that was part of the problem. Then they went to this concept where basically, excuse me, I will summarize this. Basically, this just acted as like basically a Foundry or EM plant, but for science packs. So this had a built-in 50% prod, just like Foundries and EM plants, and it could basically craft science packs, solid fuel, and rocket fuel. Right now, it couldn't craft everything; it was just these. And I kind of like this. I mean, the idea was a little bit silly. Like, this looked kind of ridiculous. I definitely think the lab is better without question. However, I am like slightly concerned that we are going to potentially have like huge bottlenecks with novice science production, and also the fact that like, as far as we know, like from Gleba at least, there's not a way to have better liquid processing, right? Or like oil related things. I kind of would have thought like the biochamber would have turned into that, like a better chemical plant basically, where it would have like 50% prod, and you could, do your sulfuric acid and your petroleum and your cracking and that. But that's not the case, so I'm a little worried there. But things are still subject to change. They're still changing stuff pretty constantly, and I will say that the lab is definitely better than this solution, though I will miss being able to make science packs and rocket fuel and solid fuel with built-in 50% prod. That was very nice to play with, but they got rid of this, right? So they say that the finished version of the lab will be in Space Age on release day. And they added a new way to craft it. Yeah. So, okay. Well, this is important. So the captive biter spawners are kind of a thing, I believe. So this means we discarded the synthetic biter spawner. We have added a way to craft the captive biter spawners, which you could then place anywhere on novice you like, so you can still scale their production up conveniently. So this is for like the egg production with the bioflux. This technology is unlocked at the last planet, so it won't get trivialized too early, and the captive spawners you make will have their own quirks, which is interesting. So I'm sorry, I was looking for some other part here, but yeah, essentially you can then automate this process of like, you don't have to just go around forever like capturing spawners that are already out there. Once you get to the last planet, you can unlock the ability to basically make these. So that's pretty neat. One other thing worth mentioning, they also say, so the idea of capturing biters has been in our heads for a long time in the Space Age, since the very first serious brainstorming was going on. This is important. Biter eggs also make use of spoiling mechanic as they spoil into live biters. This is honestly kind of more hilarious than anything playing with it. Like, I can see this being used as a troll mechanic in multiplayer, but we've had several instances where we were carrying around eggs in our pocket and forgot, and then all of a sudden they spoiled and we were surrounded by big biters. Or you'll have them in a chest you forget about and they will spoil and your factory will just start getting eaten. It's I mean, it sounds really annoying, but really I don't think it's as big as a problem as it may seem. It's more just really funny when it happens, because by the time you actually like get to this stage, big biters aren't really a huge issue unless you just completely neglect a military. But yeah, so I think this is pretty funny. Over the last month, we've improved the experience on Gleba in many ways, changing map generation, cleaning up some graphics, making many, if not all, recipes, making the enemies less crazy, adding new ways to obtain resources, making the rewards a lot more appealing. A lot of changes are too detailed for the context of FFS, but we'd like to express our deep gratitude for the feedback from our testers, which has been immensely helpful. So I'm really glad to hear that, and of course we are glad to be helping out. Speaking of testers, please be aware the content press embargo ends on the 14th of October, so if you want to avoid spoilers, please keep in mind that there is no restrictions on what they can show. This has been changed. So originally this date has remained the same, but originally the part of the embargo was that we were asked to not discuss anything on the final planet or the end goal of the game. That part has been removed. So we are now allowed to discuss absolutely everything about the game. Now, meaning on the 14th, not now. So I just want to mention two quick unrelated things here to directly to the Friday Facts is number one, if you want to avoid spoilers that, i.e. things that have not been shown in Friday Facts, I would just be aware that, content creators are now allowed to talk about, show, demonstrate, do whatever with any part of the expansion, including the final planet and the final goal. So if you don't want to know about that stuff, just a heads up there. In terms of my content, I will be doing it, but I will be discussing it and showing it, but I will be doing it in a very kind of separate and obvious way, not obvious in terms of what the things are, but obvious in terms of like, hey, this is a spoiler. This has not been shown in Friday Facts before. So I just want to let you all know, like, it will be something that I go over, but you will know ahead of time that it's going to happen. Like, it's either going to be in a separate video, or if it's in another video, like my overview video, I'll make it abundantly clear that, hey, like, I'm going to show this stuff at this point. More likely it's going to be a different video where you can just avoid it completely if you don't want to see it. So I just want to make that clear with that. Now, I'm going to end this Friday Facts out basically with my general thoughts on Gleba currently really quickly, because I know this is already kind of long. I think Gleba is in a better spot for sure than it was during LAN party and than it was a couple weeks ago, like a week or two ago. I still have issues with it. I think maybe they're more personal issues. I'm still going to go to it last, probably. Well, last in terms of, like, the main 3 planets. Because, like, it said here that, this would maybe be a good reason to go there first to get this. But really, I don't think this is something I would want first. Because, like, here's the thing, right? Science consumption is almost never a bottleneck until super late game. Now, granted, this does have the built-in half consumption, and like I already mentioned, it does trickle down through your production. I've not done calculations or anything like that, but my gut is saying that 50% prod from like a foundry or an implant is still going to be more immediately helpful than this would be early on when you're only making like 100 science a minute or 50 science a minute or whatever. Before Mega Base stage. So I'm likely still going to go to Volcanus or Fulgora first and Gleba last, because the lab is not something like, because it's usually going to be an instance of where like my smelting cannot keep up and I want foundries, or my circuit production more likely can't keep up and I need to transition to EM plants with 50% built-in prod where I can show a bunch of modules in, etc. So I'm still going to come to Gleba last. Also, I still have a lot of issues with the production on Gleba. That is my own, probably mostly my own thing. I'm not the only one with some issues, but I think I do complain about it probably too much. I just don't like the production chains on Gleba, but that I think again is a personal problem. I do think all of this is positive. I think that Gleba is definitely better than it was. And, there are a lot of people who really like it. So it's not like it's just straight up objectively bad, because it's not. There are, especially not now. And there are people who do really enjoy the production chains, and I'm sure some of you are going to be some of those people. And there's going to be some people who really don't. And like me, right? It's kind of like with mods, right? There's like two camps of people. There's people who really enjoy advanced mods like space exploration and BIOS mods and piano dens. And then there's people like me who really do not enjoy those mods. And I think that's going to kind of be where Gleba sits, just because of how it works, right? Just because of the production chains, the organic and agriculture aspect of it that has spoilage and other things that I can't really mention right this moment. But yeah, I think it's definitely an improvement, and they are going to still continue to improve it. Like I said, things are consistently changing, and they really are doing a great job addressing like the major concerns that people have. Obviously, they can't just change everything every time someone says something. That would be a very bad development. But like the things where it's just like where it's just consistently like mentioned as an issue by a lot of people, they are changing it, and they're doing a really great job with that. So I don't want this to sound like a huge complaint, like Friday Facts, because overall I think this stuff is really great, And I really look forward to playing with this lab. I hope they drop that update for us soon because I really want to try this out. I think this is actually insanely powerful. But that's going to do it for me. I'm really interested in what you all think. Like, how do you think this compares to what it was? Do you think this is a good enough reward from Gleba? Or do you still plan to go there last, or do you want to go there first now? Or, what do you think of this? And such. I'd really be interested in what all you have to say. One more Friday Facts until embargo lifts, and then two more Friday Facts until full release. So we are getting super close, everyone. I am really excited. I'm really starting to dive into like making videos and building stuff out. I can't wait until I can upload those and you guys can watch and then you guys can play. It's super exciting. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, a like is also appreciated. And if you're new and are not already subscribed, feel free to keep up with all future content. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.